what it does is it loads all of those module definitions. All right, so let's go look and see what those module definitions actually are for this module. So we'll edit that module. So this is what you kind of have to do manually. You set up your sort of header information here, and then you create a set of module definitions. And this one has got two. It's called, one is stop suggestion, the other is suggestion display. Okay? And for each of those, then, there is a list of controls, and this actually is the user controls. All right, so the suggestion control is called the view control. We don't actually put a control key on here. This edit suggestion, ASCX, is the edit control. The settings.ascx, in this case, is the settings control. So there's a couple of keys here that are important. And the module developers guide talks about these. The book talks about them. So there's a set of these that you can use. You set that up for each of the module definitions that you've got. In this case, there's a displayer. And I'll show you how the module works in a minute, so this all comes together. This only has one control, and it's a display control. Okay. And then down here is where you put your description, you version it, you put your license, your release notes, and all that stuff for when you build the package. And you'll notice down here there's a create package link at the very bottom. Once you get all the module definition stuff together, you can actually generate that manifest file. Once you do this manually for the first time, right, you can create your manifest file just by clicking that link, and it creates that XML file that we looked at. So you don't have to hand code anything either. It just generates it. But you have to do it once manually. Or you can take an existing, like if you use an existing module, just take its DNN file and modify it. All right, so now we should see that there is a listing for that module in this list. Okay, and we should be able to take it, put it on a page and run it. All right, so let's do that. What do I have until 20 after? Okay, okay. All right, so I'm going to actually add a page to the site. This just shows you a little bit more about portal management here. I'm going to call this code name. Copy it down here. I want it to go parent page unspecified, so it shows up in the top line of the menu bar. I can put a template, a page template. I'm going to say none because I don't want any other content here. And I'm going to show this page to all users. So that's sort of the minimum number of things that you do to add a page. So I have an empty page now on the top menu bar called Code Camp. So I can take my module and I can add it to this page now. We're going to call this thing food service. All right, so it's suggestions for some topic. All right. I'm going to let it go in the content pane and just add it. And what we'll see, because we had two module definitions, we actually have two modules, two physical things on the page now. And they're both called food service at the moment. That's just the way it works when because you got one name and two modules. All right. So the first one here is the actual suggestion module itself. You can see there's an add suggestion link down here on the end. And the other one is the displayer. So it's a little data grid that'll actually display the results of the suggestions. Now the way this module works is if you are an administrator for the portal, a single display module will display suggestions from any suggestion module in the whole site. So there could be many of these out there. You know, we could have a food service, we could have a sessions suggestion for Code Camp, we could have a an after party suggestions module, whatever. Right? So all of those would show up in this drop-down list, and the way that the module is written is that it shows you the name of that module and the page that it's on, so that the administrator can find it. Okay, so this is just a sample module that shows you some of the programming things that you can do. And there's stored procedures that retrieve this information. But basically, once some suggestions are entered, they'll show up in the list here. Okay, so then so this is the display, the two display modules. This is the suggestion and the suggestions display. So those are the two display modules. If I click over here on the settings for the suggestions module, you'll go to the normal module settings page, and you'll see that this is the usual stuff you get for settings. All right. What I want to do here is I want to make this only visible, so I'm going to uncheck inherit view permissions from page. Okay. And I don't want all users to be able to see it. What I want is registered users to be able to see it. Well, actually, that's not what I want to do. I want all users to be able to see it, but only registered users to be able to edit it. All right? The idea is that you can't add a suggestion unless you're logged into the portal, so it can capture your username. All right, this is the idea of roles, and you have total control over what your modules do based on those roles. Right? And you'll notice down here then is the actual settings for that. It uses the title of the module you gave it, so it's called food service here. And you can see then that here's the edit settings page for that module. All right, so this is one of the user controls. We'll look at the source code for this in 2 minutes. So what you can do here is 2 things. You can add types of suggestions. So we can say like breakfast, add type. So this is an administrator function here. Lunch, add type. So those go into a list of suggestion types that will show up in the dropdown when the user adds a suggestion. And you can also change here the instructions, to the user. And this just happens to say you must be logged into the portal to make suggestions. It's just sort of the default. All right. So then I'm also going to edit the settings for the food service here. And I'm going to do a similar thing where I take away permissions, and I'm going to allow this only to be seen by administrators. Okay. Now, if I log out, you can see the results of what's happened here. So now that display suggestions module is hidden because it's only visible to administrators. This module is visible to everybody, but there's no edit suggestion link because we're not logged in. All right, because I made it registered users. Okay. So now if I log in as I have a user on this portal, just called user. Now we get an add suggestion link. By role, all right, he's now a registered user because he's logged in. I said on that module I want registered users to be able to edit it. So now the guy can actually go in and add a suggestion to this. So we can say coffee. It would have been nice to have some. Well, when I got here, there wasn't any. I'm picking on the code camp, and I apologize to Dave Yoder because he does an awesome job. But I just needed an example. Okay. So now what it does is it switches and says, "Thank you for your suggestion." Okay. That's all this module really does. Like I said, this is a really simple module. It's just for demonstration purposes. We can't see the suggestion I entered because we're not an administrator. So let's log back in as administrator. And I'm just going to log in as host again. Just host. All right. So now we can see the display module again. And in fact, that suggestion that was entered is showing here. Okay. And if I had suggestion modules on other pages besides this one, they would have shown up here in this drop-down list so that I could pick which module I wanted to see the results of. In this case, there's only one. Okay. Any questions about how that works? All right. It's very simple, really. It seems a little elaborate, but it's actually very simple what it does, yeah.
Do you need to have both modules on every single page so you can get rid of the display except where you want it?
Typically what you're going to do is you're going to when you place the module on the page, you're going to delete this one. Okay? Then you're going to go to an admin page somewhere. I mean, you can leave it here if you want. You can actually get the results of those suggestions here on this page. And I started to say earlier also then, anybody who's an admin on this page can only see the suggestions from modules that are on this page. Whereas a portal admin can see suggestions from any modules on any page. So typically you're going to locate a couple of these on the site. So you're going to drop a pair of these on some other page, you're going to delete that one. Maybe a page that's only visible by the administrator. All right. So let's go and look at then getting into design mode on this thing. So we can actually just look at the source code for this particular module. Okay. Back to Visual Studio. Actually, we didn't ever get to Visual Studio in the first place, did we? Okay, so I have to start Visual Studio. Now, here's one of the things on Vista, is if you're using IIS, you have to run Visual Studio as an administrator. If you're using the Cassini web server, you don't. You can just run as a regular user. But if you're using IIS, you have to run as administrator. Okay, so I've already loaded this project. Actually, I do have to do one more thing before I load it. And I mentioned that earlier.